Sorry, folks, we're closed for 2 weeks to clean and repair America's favorite family fun park. Sorry.
What?
Hey guys, we are Sean and Christy. This is Long Long Honeymoon, and today we have an unprecedented discussion topic for you: camping in national parks during a pandemic. So, a lot of people have asked, is camping canceled this year? For the month of April, as you well know, pretty much all of our national parks have been closed. A lot of state parks have been closed as we've been attempting to flatten the curve and keep everybody healthy and safe. Now that the month of May has arrived, we're hearing reports that many states and many national parks are beginning to resume more normal operations. Not business as usual, exactly.
In today's video, we're going to sort of cover the 10 most visited national parks and talk about whether they've made a decision or not to reopen yet, and if they have, what they've said thus far regarding camping this year.
And do you see this? This is a large asterisk because anything we say, frankly, could be contradicted next week or next month.
Or tomorrow.
So we're doing the best we can with the information we have today.
Sorry, folks, park's closed. The moose out front should have told you.
Today, the following national parks are closed until further notice: Rocky Mountain National Park, Yosemite National Park, and Glacier National Park.
The moose says you're closed, I say you're open.
The first national park that's actually announced a reopening date is Smoky Mountains National Park in Tennessee. They actually have announced that they're going to do a phased reopening, and phase 1 will start on May 9th. And what is going to happen with that reopening is I think they're basically just going to let people come into the park. The campgrounds will remain closed, the picnic pavilions will remain closed, the visitor centers will remain closed, and any secondary roads will remain closed. So I'm not sure what that really leaves open.
Maybe you can hike.
Maybe there are some trails that you can hike. Like I said, drive through on the main road. They don't go into detail about if any restrooms will be open. I'm assuming that there won't be any at the visitor centers because those will be closed. I guess it's just, pack it in and pack it out and bring your own teepee and just be ready to squat behind a tree. They said that this first phase is expected to last at least 2 weeks, possibly longer, and they'll make decisions as time approaches.
The Grand Canyon. An amazing vista, if I do say so.
Next up, Grand Canyon National Park. They are closed until further notice. I'm sorry, folks, the canyon is closed.
The one detail that they did give on their website is that all rafting trips are suspended through June 13th. So that makes me think that maybe after June 13th, they will allow rafting trips to pass through the park. You won't be able, I guess, to actually enter within the park. But if you're, rafting from somewhere else, passing through, they'll let you through. I don't know. I just want to know, did they have somebody on the river, halting people when they get to the national park boundary? You can't go any further on your raft.
Sorry, folks, park's closed. The moose out front should have told you.
Olympic National Park in Washington is closed until further notice, but they will begin a phased reopening in the next couple of weeks. And the same is true of Zion National Park in Utah.
Next up is Acadia National Park. They actually have released dates right now. They say that all park campgrounds that would normally be opening in the month of May have just been delayed until June 15th. So as of right now, they are planning to reopen the campgrounds within the park on June 15th. The Hulls Cove Visitor Center is going to open June 1st, and the Sur de Monts Visitor Center, I don't think I'm saying that correctly because I don't speak French, has been delayed until June 15th. So right now, those are their opening dates. Of course, they said that those dates could change, and right now they haven't released any information on the concessionaire services and operations. So who knows if any restaurants will be open or shops or anything like that.
So we've pulled over into a turnout here in the Lamar Valley. This is in the northeastern portion of Yellowstone National Park. And for many, this is maybe a little bit of a hidden gem because you have to go a little bit off the main loop to get up here. And a lot of people don't make that detour.
Yellowstone National Park is closed.
Yellowstone is sort of an interesting beast because the Park Service runs the park, but then they have other companies that run the lodging and the campgrounds. So earlier this week, actually, I got really excited because I saw a press release that had come out from one of the Yellowstone concessioners, and they were announcing the opening dates for all the hotels and the campgrounds within the park, and that lasted for like 3 days, and then they took it all down, and now they're just saying we're closed until at least, I believe, June 15th is what they're saying. So that is the concessioner, Xanterra. So who knows? They were actually saying that Fishing Bridge RV Park was going to remain closed through fall of 2021. So not just this year, but next year as well. Apparently they're still doing major work to it, so I don't know if that's true or not. And then they were planning on not opening Old Faithful Inn and Roosevelt Lodge and Grant Village. So that would be a huge, bust to them because those house so many visitors. Wouldn't really affect RVers. They were still planning to open all the other RV parks, most of them with like mid-June opening dates. If they go back to that, that would be good news for RVers, but who knows if that will be the case. Also, they were estimating last week that none of the sit-down restaurants would be open this summer. They were only going to have like takeaway counters and I guess maybe the little grocery stores. But I think that's a big hit for most visitors to not have those services.
You're going to miss out on all those microwave meals you could have been having.
Well,
that microwave lasagna.
It's more of the convenience.
The frozen pizza. It is. I totally get that.
Yeah.
But I will also say, and I would make this point about all these parks, they're going to be partially open. If you feel comfortable in getting out and traveling and you're interested in going to some of these national parks, crowds are obviously going to be much, much lower this year.
Yeah.
There will probably never be a time in your life when there's going to be less traffic in these parks
than true.
What you're going to see this summer. During the high season even, I would expect the parks to be running at a much, much lower capacity, not only because Americans are going to be less likely to be there, but also international visitors who would normally be in Yellowstone and Grand Teton by the bus load are not going to be there.
Yeah. As of right now, those people aren't allowed in the country, from other countries. So international travel, as of right now, is not going to happen. I'll be curious to see how it works through the summer, if that opens up and if people start coming in. But as of right now, that won't be the case. So that's a big hit to Yellowstone. Pack a lunch wherever you go because...
As someone who worked in those restaurants at Yellowstone, they're not why you go to Yellowstone.
No,
a lot of that food
not.
ain't the greatest,
No.
putting it politely, and you're going to make much better meals at your RV campsite anyway.
Yeah.
And so, that's something I think especially RVers can cope with because we're carrying around our own kitchens and refrigerators anyway.
I think it's really just inconvenience on those days where you're, driving the whole north half of the park and you've got to stop for lunch midway through the day. You're not going to make it back to your campsite. You want a quick meal.
Sure.
Now you're going to have to pack a sack lunch and have it in your car with you that you're driving around the park. So it's just more planning.
Just to the south of Yellowstone National Park, you will find another one of our favorites, Grand Teton National Park. I'm sorry, folks, the mountains are closed. Grand Teton National Park is closed until further notice, but we're again hearing they are going to open certain parts of the park in phases.
The National Park Service isn't announcing this, but Grand Teton Lodge Company, which runs the campgrounds and the hotels within the park, has made an announcement. They are right now saying that Jenny Lake Lodge and Jackson Lake Lodge will not be opening this summer at all. They're saying that Coulter Bay RV Park and Campground, they hope to open on June 5th, along with the grocery store and the laundry services there. And then further into the summer, they will probably open the cabins and some of the to-go food and beverage. They are not expected to operate motorboat rentals, lake cruises, guided fly fishing or lake fishing, marina store, the corrals, or activities desk. So all those sort of group activity type of things that you could book there, I think are just going to be shut down for the summer. And then they're still determining if they're going to open the marina and the boat slips and that sort of thing for, personal watercraft. So we'll see what happens there. Jenny Lake Campground and Store, they're still determining when they're going to open that, but a little birdie told me that it might be opening on June 15th. Who knows? That could change. Right now, they're saying they expect Grovont Campground to open on May 29th. Places are planning on opening, according to Grand Teton Lodge Company, but the National Park Service hasn't given an opening.
So there you have it, folks. List of the top 10 closed mountains, oceans, and canyons in our country. A surprising number of these parks are still closed until further notice, and we don't really have any additional data, unfortunately, to convey to you. The parks that are opening in stages, and even though they will be open, it will certainly not be business as usual. It will not be a normal visit to the national park. A lot of restaurants are going to be closed. A lot of bathrooms are going to be closed. A lot of services are not going to be available. Your experience in visiting these parks is going to be markedly different than it would have been if you had gone last year. Conversely, on the positive side, traffic will never be lower in these parks. What is the most common complaint that we hear about Yellowstone, for example, and all these national parks? Oh, it's too crowded. It was so crowded. I couldn't drive from one side of the park to the other because it was so crowded. It was just a big traffic jam. There has never been a time in our lives when these parks will have lower summertime traffic. Yeah. So if you feel comfortable in getting out and traveling around, and if you have the opportunity, this might be a great year to visit some of these parks if you know up front what you're getting into. And now we will point out, and this is a huge complicating factor, some states have individual quarantine requirements in place. You know, for example, I believe Wyoming, in theory, when you show up in their state, coming from another state, you're supposed to self-quarantine for 14 days, and you can only make trips for essential services. You know, I'm sure food, gasoline,
medical care,
and booze. Sorry.
Well, that actually expired yesterday, but they're still debating on whether or not they're going to extend it. But there are several other states that do have those travel quarantines in place for people coming from other states. So those sort of rules, I think, are just changing almost daily. Like some states are letting them expire, some states are extending them. You really are going to have to do your research before you get on the road. You're really going to have to know the states you're passing through, what their laws are. If you are going to travel this year, you definitely have to be somebody who is flexible. Being flexible and being able to roll with the punches and not having to have a set day and time to be certain places will work in your benefit this year, especially just because so many things are uncertain. So if you're somebody that you've got to be there on a certain day and have this campsite for this many days and, you know, X, Y, or Z, it may not be the year for you to take a big trip.
I agree with that. If you're like a highly organized planner, then this is probably not your year to take a trip like this because so much changes so quickly. You know, a lot of this information can change on a moment's notice. Like even the big services will put up a press release and then they'll take it down.
Which happened this week.
Yeah.
Know yourself, know how you like to travel, know what you're willing to risk and what you're not willing to risk. We certainly aren't telling anybody to travel right now. We're looking further into the summer as far as travel goes. And I think each week we're going to learn a little bit more about what is going to be feasible and what's not.
Of course, we're always advocating that you use best practices, whether you're home or you're on the road in your RV, protecting yourself, your family, and other people from getting sick. According to one recent major study, you are 18.7 times more likely to contract a virus indoors in a closed environment than you are outdoors. Many medical researchers believe you are safer outside than you are inside. You got to be reasonable about this. And as when I talked about tolerance for risk, we've taken a lot of risks in our lives. I mean, probably one of the riskiest things I've done this year is I got on a motorbike in Bangkok, Thailand. I think you can safely get out on the hiking trails and in rivers on rafts.
Yeah.
In boats and kayaks. I think there's kind of a hysteria right now. It's important to think reasonably and to take reasonable, prudent steps to protect yourself, your family, and everyone from getting sick. If you're in a high-risk category, then I'll just go ahead and say, no, I don't think you should be out traveling right now. And so like we are, for example, very concerned about our parents because they would each fall in kind of a high-risk category for COVID-19. If you're in a lower risk category and you're committed to taking prudent, responsible steps, then I think absolutely you can get out and travel. We run the risk of doing a lot of damage and hurting a lot of people by not supporting their businesses. We need to be thinking about all these businesses around the country that are suffering right now and all their employees who are suffering.
Yeah, their livelihood has just been taken away, overnight. There was no warning for a lot of these people that things were going to be shut down like this. So it's really sad to see a lot of these businesses just hanging on by a thread and so many people not being able to pay bills and, just daily necessities that they're going without because their income dried up overnight. So it's really sad, and you can go down a dark path pretty quick with that. But as far as your personal travel, your personal safety, if I were you, the person I would talk to is my family physician. Your family doctor knows you. They know what's going on. They're getting information from their local hospitals, and they're getting more proper information, I think, than a lot of us are getting through the media. So I would talk to your doctor and take advice from them and do what's right for you and live life.
I think that's a really great point. Every doctor I've talked to about COVID-19 has given me a very reasonable, rational, measured response. I haven't met any hysterical doctors. I've met a lot of hysterical people who are watching TV all day long and plugged into the internet all day long.
And they're on Facebook all day.
And they're on Facebook all day long, and they get so worked up over this. But when you talk to doctors, they seem to have a pretty reasonable take on the level of risk. And that's when I talk about, your personal tolerance for risk that will affect whether or not you venture out this year. We have a very dear family member whom we love so much, never drove a car in her entire life. She chose not to drive because driving a vehicle is a dangerous activity. And we all know it's a dangerous activity. Now, this very dear family member has lived to be 103. Took her first airplane ride at age...
I think she was 91.
She was 91. I'm not judging one way or another. She had a pretty low tolerance for risk. She's still here at age 103, and we love her dearly.
Kicking strong.
Yeah. But it's like there are other people that have a pretty high tolerance for risks, that are willing to take risks, that will hop on the back of motorbikes in Bangkok, Thailand, or will fly Golden Myanmar Airlines across Burma. So
some people feel better about canceling their reservations through December. And if that makes you feel better, if that lowers your anxiety, then cancel them. Don't go anywhere. Stay where you are. Stay where you feel safe. But if you're somebody that you've talked to your doctor, you don't feel like you're a high-risk person, taking all the precautions, and you've got a reservation for August for whatever park, and if things look good then it's up to you to decide whether or not you want to go. Do what's best for you and try to keep other people safe as well, and don't get too bogged down with the sky is falling mentality.
The beauty of RV travel is you are your own self-contained little living pod. I would bet that most of these RV parks are going to set up social distancing type of check-in and check-out procedures. I certainly hope that they will. As always, thank you for tuning in. In the very near future, we're going to be looking at some really cool RV camping and outdoor products that you can use whether or not you're on the road with your RV. We are Sean and Christy. This has been Long, Long Honeymoon. We're almost out of phase 1 of the mess.
Yep.
We're about to enter phase 2 of the mess. So stay tuned.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
Aloha.
Aloha.
Clark, you're scaring me.
Don't be scared. I just think somebody owes us an explanation, that's all. Come on.
Clark! Clark, now just...
Stuck at home in quarantine? With the Long, Long Honeymoon Dump Station Simulator, you can go camping from the comfort of your couch. Our exclusive RV VR technology is so realistic, you'll want to wear rubber gloves. Honey, it's time to empty the water tanks.